Hello, welcome to Gathering the Roll for October 31st, 2017. Happy Halloween, everyone. It's a spooky season. I would have been wearing my cape today, but unfortunately I've been able to find it. So if those of you are in chat and you totally subscribe, go ahead and use my fail emote, because cape fail. I totally didn't know where my nice and spooky cloak would have been to make this perfectly Halloween. Hi everyone that's here in chat. Hi everyone that's going to be watching this, of course, on the YouTube side. It's an exciting day here, of course, with some more tabletop news. Let's dive into it, though, before we get into anything else based around the channel. So why don't we dive into our CCG binder, of course, to start out with, and start out with a little bit of Magic the Gathering news. So we only have a little bit in our binder today. First off, for this one here, Magic the Gathering Arena closed beta is actually coming out this week, the 3rd of November. So if you're interested in the closed beta, you can try to sign up now. Now, it's not necessarily that you're going to be eligible and that you're not going to get in, but if you sign up, you may have a chance of actually joining the closed beta and testing out Magic the Gathering Arena, their new online gameplay for it. So if you're interested in that and you want to check it out, go ahead and try to. The link will be in the description of the YouTube side here when I put that out. But I can send one in here into chat too. Look at that. I'm being nice to both Twitch and YouTube. So that's the article, which will have the way you can email them and contact them for doing it. Again, I will put that up on the YouTube side also. But why don't we move on for a little bit more Magic Gathering. Pro Tour Ixalan's out this weekend. So there's going to be the new Pro Tour based around Ixalan. It's going to be in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's going to be a standard and Ixalan booster draft. So both of them a Ixalan booster draft standard constructed. But it's the Pro Tour events going on now. Deck lists will be required if you are using a standard deck. And the player invitation lists are out. You can, of course, always check that out on their Twitch site. So, that's all for our CCG binder, though, for today. Why don't we dive into the RPG bookshelf and start out with Bloody Quest. Alright, Bloody Quest. It's actually in an open beta now. So Bloody Quest is, of course, a fantasy RPG. That seems like it's a standard, but what they're doing is they're doing a new exciting take on it. There's a dark world of their own which they're building, so that's always good. Filled with creatures both familiar and new, a few spins on the old tropes that they're trying to do to keep it fresh. And they're using a unique hybrid of the tabletop war games and role-playing games. So it is going to be more of a definitely miniature-based system. They're using a D6 system for lethal combat, bringing about some of that war game side of combat and combining it definitely with the RPGs. And it is a math light system. So combat is supposed to be resolved within 20 to 40 minutes, which is a pretty standard. If you're a role player, you know that combat can go that long, if not more. So if they keep it to that kind of time for even the most difficult ones, for the tactical depth and detail, the system will work. So this is, of course, though, an open beta about it. And it comes with 3 tomes that you can get together. The Core Rules, Player's Guide, and Game Mastering Guide. 198 pages, 6 classes, 5 races. Everything you basically need to start. The beta is, of course, pay what you want. They suggest $10, so you could get it for free. It's up on Drive-Thru RPG. So if you're interested in trying it out, this system, go ahead. Again, I will leave the link to that one in the description of the YouTube page. Why don't we move on? There's a little bit more role-playing game news for our bookshelf here. Mindjammer has a new release here. Mindjammer, The Children of Urun, the Vinu sourcebook. So this is about the Vinu Empire. They're bad guys of human space. They're like an ancient xenophobic supremacists. Survivors of ancient wars. They're hell-bent on cleansing the cosmos of abominations, bringing purity to the world, the bringing purity to the world under their god emperor, effectively. They are humans, but they are human supremacists. So, I mean, they're bad guy humans, and now you have an adventure, you have a source book based on them. It gives some history of the Empire, strange powers of the Dark Radiance, some star maps, detailed on creating characters that work in this group, their tech and starships. So if you play Mindjammer, and you want to be part of the xenophobic human group, or just, you know, learn a little bit more about them, this is the way to do it. Ooh, spilled some water there. That's pleasant. Oh, okay. Also out, we have Cthulhu. A new source book for that. So it's code 0 Point Code of Honor. So we're in Istanbul, 1942. It's a neutral city. There's spies everywhere. There's Nazis, Soviets, Brits, Yanks, Japanese. All these nations in Istanbul in a kind of powering city. It's an adventure. It's an adventure for your Octoon Cthulhu game. So Code of Honor 0 Point 1942 is the whole thing. It's meant to be multi-sessioned, with some description and personalities of folks in Istanbul, a detailed map of the wartime Istanbul, rules for both tradecraft and spying, secrets and mysteries, including grimoires, and a multi-session adventure that has lethal conspiracies that you can check out now for your Cthulhu adventures. So, well, bone's falling apart a little bit. For your Octoon Cthulhu. I'm probably pronouncing it Cthulhu Adventures. So, there's dangers in the street and a war on the horizon. So, definitely an adventure that's interesting to check out. But why don't we move on from our RPG bookshelf, because there's not a huge amount of things on that, to our card game desk. Let's, of course, start with the Game of Thrones card game, House of Thorns expansion. So, it's about the verdant stretches reach across the stronghold of Hildegard. It's another one of the card game Game of Thrones expansions. Fantasy Flight puts out a whole bunch of these. They include new characters, new cards, occasionally new places, new mechanics that you can use to bring into the card game. And the Wardens of the South is a new card in House of Thorns, which can raise your character's strength, potentially. So they have a whole bunch of new cards that will add to your Game of Thrones card game experience. And if you, again, like the show, like the book material, like all that kind of stuff, and like the card game, you might enjoy this too. It is, of course, out now, if you are interested in playing it. Also out, though, in card game is Arkham Horror, the card game, Echoes of the Path. It's a Mythos pack. So it's new mysteries, new Streamcat, that you're racing for answers, going against various dangers. It's traditional, very Arkham Horror, that there's some kind of elder, dark creature on the horizon, and there's new secrets for you to discover. Will you fall for the King in Yellow? Save yourself in the city. Darkness and the curtain is falling on the city. And includes four desperate cards. Desperate to help you. And if you're desperate, kind of... one basically for each skill to kind of push you to the edge of using those skills. New talents, composures. A lot of new material for your Arkham Horror, the card game, games. So, of course, you can check this out now, this small Mythos pack, which is available for you to get. Let's move on, though, from our card game desk to our board game pile. We have Witching Hour. So, this is like magic tricks, white magic to heal. You know, you've got your dread demons using black magic and stealing souls. So we have a new cooperative board game that has been released, thanks to WizKids. So you're entering a world of witches, warlocks, and demons in Approaching Dawn, the Witching Hour. You cast spells, summon familiars, and you work together to survive the night as basically personal demons and demons in general attempt to steal your magic powers and your souls. And you're going to use both black magic and white magic. Black magic being your attacks, has very big cost to yourself, so you have to be careful because it might not only hurt you, but hurt the other members of your coven. And white magic can be used to heal or help out the other members, while you're banishing the dark creatures you're going to be facing that are entering our world back into the void. And it's not just monsters you're going to be worrying about. As you darken, you gain corruption, and you might end up corrupted before the end of the night, and that would cause the coven to fall and everyone to lose. So if you survive until dawn, and the coven survives. It's a game that's out now that is basically witchcraft, which is interesting, and it's based around the fact of cooperative gameplay. So, cooperative witchcraft gameplay, fighting demons, using spells. It's an interesting one that is, of course, out now that you can check out. Of course, though, we do want to talk about Carcassonne The Big Box. Now, Carcassonne is a game that has been out for some time, of course. But a lot of expansions have come out for it over the years. This here is a new big box that's available, which is basically combining your traditional original Carcassonne, which came out in 2001. I'll tell you how old Carcassonne is, along with 11 of the expansions they put out, a lot of ones that are better for starters, but also ones that are more famous, and 9 of their mini expansions that they have out, all of them adding unique twists. It contains more than 150 of the landscape tiles that you'll be building your board with. So that's a lot of tiles, and you can mix and match the expansions and the mini expansions as you want to build your own unique Carcassonne adventure as you need fit, and as you and the people playing it become more experienced with it. So certain ones you might want to bring in for a little bit more adventure, a little bit more complexity. Others you might want to leave out if you don't need that complexity. But there is the option in this huge big box that's combining a large amount of Carcassonne-based material all in one place. And of course, it is available now for your purchase. It's $80, which for the amount of stuff you would buy individually for Carcassonne is not a bad price. If you were to buy the normal game and 11 expansions and 9 mini expansions, definitely you're getting your money's worth. So if you love Carcassonne and you didn't really have a lot of them, or you're new to Carcassonne, this is a good one to check out. It is available now. But also out, Pandemic Legacy Season 2. So those of you that played Pandemic Legacy the first season, it was a board game where you would take on a number of missions. It would be a board game that's effectively non-replayable. It's similar to the basic Pandemic story, basic Pandemic gameplay, but its own engrossing storyline that you're following through. That as things happen to you in the course of various missions you take with a bunch of other players, the story continues and evolves in certain ways. Of course, as I said, this is unfortunately a board game because of the way that Pandemic Legacy is set, that it does not have a huge amount of replayability. But if you did play through Season 1 and you loved it a lot because of the nature of it and the emergent gameplay and storylines that could exist because of it, you too can check out now the second season of it for continuing adventures or a new place to take your story from. So, if you loved Pandemic Legacy, the first one, or you're interested in trying out a unique type of board game, slightly different, because of the fact it does not have that same level of replayability, you can check it out now. Massive Darkness. Massive Darkness came out last month. We talked about it, of course, on discussing Tabletop, and I believe I talked about it here on Gathering the Roll. Massive Darkness has a number of expansions out for it. I'm not going to dive into each of these expansions. Some of them are straight up miniatures, others are more miniatures and cards. There are Heroes and Monsters sets, 2 of them, 2 miniatures and card sets, basically enemy boxes that you can get to add levels to your Massive Darkness games. They're just made to add new threats, new things you can check out, new things you can deal with. different things that you can encounter along the way to make more challenges, and of course the hero sets add new heroes that you can add to your Massive Darkness games. If you, as you recall, it is more of a cooperative game we were talking about previously. So we had been talking about it previously last month, especially on discussing Tabletop with Commands massive amounts of reliefs, where you're semi-cooperative because you do have to keep the darkness back, but also gain the best treasure. So you're all trying to keep the darkness from invading the land while in this underground lair, while also competing with each other. So semi-cooperative, and these expansions are of course out now. Alright, let's move on to a new segment, just because I wanted to give a segment to some of these games that didn't quite fit within card or board games. The Party Game Closet, because everybody throws party games in the closet. And of course, let's start with Human Beings, the improv game. So Human Beings was successfully kickstarted, and now it is becoming available to the general populace. It's basically you and your friends putting on an improv show. It's a team-driven improv game. Got a little bit of the feeling and themes that might fit with things like Whose Line Is It Anyway, or famous improv theaters. It's, of course, again, fresh off the Kickstarter. These are online purchases that you have available. It's meant to be kind of an icebreaker, an improv comedy kind of game, bringing a new level of interactivity where you have two teams improving funny scenes using the game's scene cards and words suggested by the opposing team, with the objective of bringing the fellow team member, being that fellow team members need to guess the scene's secret challenge that was selected using one of the 8 challenge categories. So effectively, a group of your team, using the word from the opponents, using the information they have, act something out, and the others have to guess it. The first to collect 8 challenge cards in categories wins. So, pretty interesting concept for a party game that you can do now. Alright, that's it for our normal segments. Let's, of course, move on to our Kickstart display, because we have a number of Kickstarters to talk about. Let's start with the 2 role-playing based Kickstarters. So first off is No Country for Great Old Ones. It's an RPG adventure that's up on Kickstarter. It's a neo-western adventure, basically for multiple systems that lets you play both as cops going after bank robbers as well as bank robbers. So little options there. And with a larger group and a good enough DM, you could do both at once. It's a crime horror adventure. It's using a fast-paced in-house dice punk system. It'll also have rules and stats that allow you to play with Savage Worlds or the Hero system, 5th edition. And excuse me, let me get a drink. Of course, you can possibly do this with even more. They have stretch goals of bringing it that you can have it in more game systems and adapting it to them. So, in addition to being a fully set-out game system for your personal experience, they do have a two-sided... It's supposed to be a two-sided game of cat and mouse with bank robbers and Texas Rangers and U.S. Marshals going against them, with either side can be the PCs. And so you could have adventure have an A side and a B side, and you could have very different experiences in crime drama. So it is very much a crime drama adventure that's going out now. Now they are just over a 5th of the way supported up until now, with 23 days to go. So there is a Lovecraftian feel, though, to it. Some things that we're going to keep to ourselves a little bit here. A little bit of hidden, that there is some dark things going on that perhaps both your cops or your robbers may encounter. That's an interesting one. And, of course, the first stretch goal, if you do want to support this, will be converting it both to 3.5 and Pathfinder. So you can get those, you can also get it there. So, yep, cool. That's out now. You can support it if you want. Look into it if you have more information you want to learn about it. Let's move on to the other RPG, that there is. The Silence of Howland. So it's a new urban fantasy RPG. It's fantasy set in more of like our settings, a little bit of noir setting it, but it's not really elves and dwarves. Magic is regulated in the world. You're going to be almost outlawed from various circumstances. It's a world where living in a world and surviving an oppressive government is where you're going to find yourself. It's a vast megalopolis that 50 years ago basically overthrew a tyranny of arcane families, basically with Merlin's edict. And there's sort of been a purge of the survivors. Most magic has kind of been thrown away. And in this urban fantasy game, basically set around it's reminiscent of 1930s US, is what it's supposed to be. So it's that kind of time period of the... after we had the big crash. And it's a world, though, with orcs, well, elves, dwarves, fantasy creatures, in this, living in this impressive metropolis of Halloween. So, and magicians being hunted down as criminals. So, I mean, if you're dealing with being a magician, you have to deal with a lot of the oppression of the city itself. And the material provided in the book will, of course, be the setting, several styles of play, from action to pulp. Basically kind of roles the players will take, whether you're order agents or possibly being those being like arcanists being persecuted, dozens of NPCs ideas, conversions to a wide variety of systems. The initial product is for Savage Worlds, but they may add more as stretch goals become unlocked, and a map of Halloween will be included. Now, currently, they are, of course, funded. They did get funded. They've hit their first goal of that, at least. 23 days to go. As for stretch goals itself, let me move down to them in their Kickstarter, because some people make it difficult with all the information. Sorry. The core book has been, and they're very close to the first level, which is a map of the urban island of Vogel. Then they will eventually do for multi-system conversion to more systems than just Savage Worlds, and they have a number of other stretch goals above that. With the top one that they've announced, with some hidden ones in between, is a Game Master screen, of course, of their own, with their own art style, as you can see here. So, as I said, they are well on their way to that first stretch goal of the urban island, and after that it's merely converting to all the other systems. So, I mean, if you like Savage Worlds anyway, there's a great one for it. Or if you're hoping that they would maybe, if you're not against playing in Savage Worlds, but hoping they'll convert it to other systems, you can support it now for an interesting take on fantasy with magic outlawed and urban setting. So, again, I clicked on it like that to make it larger, because I'm good like that. Let's move on, though. We have some other Kickstarters out. We have Museum Rush is now out. So, Museum Rush. You're always in a rush when you get to a museum. So many things to see. Maybe you don't have enough time. Maybe you have to get going. And of course, security there is to keep the priceless priceless objects where they should be. But there's cat burglars that might get around security. And so here we are, Museum Rush, a game for 2 to 4 players, where players become one of 6 crafty thieves competing with their rivals to acquire loot from the museum, while guards, cameras, and traps try to stop them. And of course, there's a time limit. That time may run out, and they won't be able to get it up and find the materials within the museum. So this is, again, a basically competitive board game for 2 to 4 players. 14 plus for age. They say 30 to 15 minutes with the board game. The various thieves will each have their own miniatures, and each have their own little cards which tell them special abilities. There is a Kickstarter exclusive of the cleaner that you can get. It is, of course, over halfway till their funding. They have 11,000 out of 19, 28 days to go, so still quite a bit of time to go. And they have hit that one. And it's about getting that big store, stealing the loot, getting everything you need, and of course getting out and worrying about all that security. So, yep. There are some Kickstarter exclusives that they are working on, special exhibits, extra thieves, things like that, and a bunch of stretch goals that will unlock more. So, if you're interested in this little, like, competitive game where you're being thieves, robbing a museum, It's out now. Let's move on. There's a big week of Kickstarters out. Dead Sprint. It's a board game. It's up on Kickstarter. While we do talk a lot about zombies and pretty much everything, they show up in a lot in our popular media. And next to Bullet Brain, a good way of getting away from zombies is run. So if you're good at cardio, then you might be getting a good way of getting around that horde. So it's the premise of the game is get away or be eaten. It's a modular tile-based board game for 2 to 5 players, where outrunning the horde of zombies through the game and also contending with the undead in front or behind them and avoiding them is the point of the game. You utilize special items, first aid kits to survive attacks, weapons to improve your attacks, and playing cards that draw and change up the strategy for all the players. It has special types of undead that force you to decide based on your inventory what you're going to do. So there is a little bit of variety to the entire thing, of the idea of maybe it's not the fighting the undead that you're doing, it's the escaping the undead that you're worrying about. So it is for 2 to 5 players, as I said, age is 13 up, and depending on how many players, they think that the time period for playing it will range from 20 to 45 minutes. It has dice, player pieces, a bunch of tiles, a bunch of zombie pieces, special playing cards, health tokens, weapon tokens, and stands, and of course the rule book that are all available now. Now, this game has only just come up. It's got 26 days to go. It is got a little bit of funding to it, but it is quite a ways from getting its full funding at this point in time. So if you are interested in checking out, you can look into the game, see if you're interested in it, and support it if you want to. As I said, it's barely into its thing, and so this is a good way of showing some support for, of course, Dead Sprint, as it's out now. Now here's one that I'm putting in Kickstarter Corner, even though it's not technically up on Kickstarter. It's up on Indiegogo. It's the same thing. Please don't try to correct me that it's not. They're relatively the same thing. Anyway, Business Mania. So, if you ever dreamed of owning your own business, hey, here's a great way of doing it. You could open a gaming shop, a bakery, whatever it is. You could have one that's both and give it a kind of funky name. Whatever it is, it's a board game that's up on Indiegogo that's about running a business, building them up, maybe sabotaging your opponents and making it way to the top. So, it's highly strategic. It's a board game where your experience of opening, crushing opponents, and stealing businesses, maybe going bankrupt, getting fired, taking out the competitors, can go in a lot of different ways. And the goal of the game is to open a profitable business. That's basically it. And it's meant to be fun for both adults and kids. Kids will learn what it's like to be business owners. And maybe the game can inspire you to open your own business, of course, too. So, they are about halfway towards their current goal with a month left. They only wanted $1,000 for it, and they're at 610. So it's for 2 to 8 players, 72 cards, 72 tokens, the rule sheet, and that's about it right now. So you can, of course, support it. It is up now if you're interested in checking it out. This is a very simple one, but of course it is up and looked interesting enough for me to mention. Let's talk about Kingship, the card game. So, let me take a quick drink here once again. This game is similar to Crazy Eights. For those of you that have played that, the object is to empty your hand of cards. Uno is another one that's, I guess, similar to Crazy Eights. They're all in the same vein. And now each card does have a special ability that's when played or paired with other cards. So you don't just want to play something, jump ahead too fast, lest you become targets of some of these special abilities. So you compete to, of course, with your opponents to be the first player to have no cards in hand. Simple as that. And if you have played either Uno or Crazy Eights, the card game using playing cards, you can jump into this pretty quickly right off the bat. You match suit or number value to play a card, and it triggers awesome abilities. And remember that the closer you are to victory, the greater chance you have of becoming a target for a lot of abilities also. So the less cards you have, the more people will want to throw things at you. So that's why it's a good idea to sort of be passive, let others make the first move, and once a basically target's declared, you can try to get to that kingship basically from there and win the game. So it is hit its goal, its first goal. It was also only wanting to earn $1,000 to basically publish this game, get it out. They have 14 days to go. They are backed, so they are going to be coming out. This interesting take on a classic game you can play with playing cards, with special abilities, interesting artwork. So I mean, if you like classic card games, like using just playing cards themselves, this might be an interesting adaptation of it. And of course, you can get the game now. It's, you know, just do it by kickstarting it, and it is funded, so you will be getting it. So cool. If you're interested, you can check it out. All right, there's still a bunch more to talk about in the Kickstarter corner. Zoo Maka. So you're going to a zoo. All right, that's a good way of saying it. We pretty much most of us have been to a zoo. If you're not, you've seen enough animals to know places that have zoos, maybe an aquarium. Anyway, so it's up and running on Kickstarter, the Zoo Maka Kickstarter. And it's it's a quirky and strategic game for 2 to 5 players where you compete to be the first to open their own zoo. Pretty simple as that. Now they have, of course, you have a variety of animal cards. It's going to be about 25 minutes. It's made to be 9+ people. It's a short game, pretty simple. You take turns to work on their zoo until you get to that point in time where you can basically start your zoo, where you've got entrance cards, direct cards, special add-on cards, setting cards, a lot of animal cards. There's, of course, a promo cards, response cards, a lot of things available that you can get out, matching some colors and various things like that. Now, it is fully funded, so it has been funded. 15 days to go. It does indeed sound wild kind of game. No, not right now. Not right now. So you can definitely get it and check it out. And of course, if you like a little game, that probably be fun to play with the family, especially, you know, young kids, or like, you know, 9, 10. This would be a great game to check out. Pretty simple one out there now. And this was one that they are relaunching. So there must have been there probably was some kind of problem that they either had to take it down or they failed the first time, but they're funded now, so oh, the bad jokes about zoos that you can have. All right, let's move on. So Dreamcatcher, the card game, is up on Kickstarter. All right. So, I mean, we all have kind of weird dreams sometimes down, and we all kind of throw it to dream logic. Maybe you have nightmares. Hopefully you don't. But Dreamcatcher is about trapping your dreams. You know, it's a fast-paced card game that puts you in the role of a divine entity, and a contest to confine nightmares that trouble mankind. Basically, eliminate nightmares. So, you spending your dreaming power to attempt to catch these nightmares, make decisions, either play fair or cheat. So there are cheating mechanics, and anticipate the actions of your fellow gods to outwit them. So Dreamcatcher, yep. It's basically a pure card game, a prisoner's dilemma, easy to learn, hard to master kind of game. It's good for a party game, 2 to 6 players, 15 to 30 minutes. 8+ is anticipated for being able to do it. So they are 21 days to go, and they are about 1/10 of the way to their Kickstarter goal. I'm sorry, 11th of the way. They've got about 2,000 of their 22,000 that they're hoping to get. So American dollars here, of course. If these are sometimes in other countries, and they do convert them on my Kickstarter pages where I'm looking to American money. So, yep. There's a first streamer card, 48 nightmares, 23 dreams, and each deity, which only one has been revealed, has their own kind of abilities. Morpheus has been revealed, basically dream deities that you get to be. So, this is an interesting little game here about catching dreams and being a god that you can get now. And I did that again. Let's move on, though. Bigfoot versus Yeti! Who will win? So out in the wild, these creatures of basically unknown science, but certainly known to local populations. So some cryptids are world famous, and even, despite this fame, remain elusive. And you're a cryptozoologist heading out into the woods to find them once and for all. But you never expected a feud between these things to be occurring. But which side will you take? So it's a battle to be the undisputed king of the cryptids. Bigfoot or his cousin, stone cold cousin, the Yeti, who's tired of being second fiddle to Bigfoot. So you're basically, as a cryptozoologist, was hoping to find the existence of these and other creatures like the Loch Ness Monster, the Jersey Devil, or the Chupacabra, and you've somehow ended up right in the middle of this feud, choosing a side for your research. So, yep. So it's for 2 to 4 players, 13 up, 30 to 45 minutes. And the basic idea is that players draw from either the unknowns, basically, or from the tabloids, basically discard pile, and you mount expeditions to the various unknown creatures, each with their own special powers, which will aid you somehow. You have single action cards, which manipulate the game, and at the end of the round, the tabloids are red, and any cards that match the cryptids in play will discredit them. Also, extraterrestrials can be tricky to prove, and prevent your way from opponents from scoring, basically. So you can use, like, aliens and stuff to prevent them from doing it. So there are 9 cryptids that they are including in here for you to check out. The game, there are some previews of the game you can check out on their Kickstarter. They are a third of the way funded, almost halfway. They've almost reached that halfway goal of being funded, 21 days to go. And I kind of like the concept of this one just as a Bigfoot versus cryptid, or Bigfoot versus Yeti, just kind of silly thing for your ones to do. The hard jokes will go on all day, though, as it's Halloween. This one fits very well with the Halloween theme, too, of monsters and stuff, too. So, Bigfoot versus Yeti, out now. Alright, we have a couple more that we want to talk about Kickstarter Corner. Kanagawa Battle card game is up on Kickstarter, of course. And the thing is, they say that games occasionally need to be redone. They were maybe good, but need to be updated, rebalanced. And the case was with Kazune Goddess, was a kind of Japanese/anime game that was done. And this is Kamigawa Battle's Battle of the Nine Realms, a PvP deck building game. That's kind of cleaned up some of the problems there, and it's up on Kickstarter. So the Kanzume Goddesses reemerge after the Kamigawa Battle as Kamigawa Battle's Battle of the Nine Realms. It's a PvP deck building card game with new mechanics, new contents, and even more to come as they've done. They've kind of cleaned up the rules, balanced out the power, created some new exciting game elements that people that were fans of the original game this is based on will enjoy. Several gods have been rebalanced. They've got chaining colors, increased the size of gods' cards, updated the backs, better quality packaging, added templates. Basically, if you enjoyed the first game, you'll really love this one. If you're just interested in checking this out, this might be a point. They have funded this game. They've almost reached twice their funding goal with 16 days to go. So this is definitely a game that if you support it, you'll get some stuff from it. You know, you've already hit the support here. And this is an evolution of a previous game that was already out. And they're putting it up on Kickstarter because they want to not only give people some great stuff there, it's a way to get out the fact that they've done this update and that get more word of mouth out there about the game. So, yeah, it's out now. It's funded, so if you want to join in this Kickstarter, you will get whatever you put in the money for. So, cool. Kickstarter's out now. Let's move on. We only have a couple more to talk about. Valhalla, a strategy board game. A Vikings Raid. It's what they do. They also build settlements. It's another thing that they do. Raid and settlements, raid and settlements. So Valhalla is a strategic board game where you're becoming the leader of a Viking group. You lead them into battle to increase your own settlements' resources. Simple one. And other stuff you might haul back from England. Because England seems to be the butt of the Vikings, attacks here a little bit. So it's a 2 to 4 player game set in the dawn of the Viking era. And as I said, it's all about raiding and building settlements with its own innovative building system, its own fighting system, and 140 unique cards, kind of telling the story of the northern lore and the effects on the game that it might have. Now, they are funded. They are just funded with 9 days to go, so if you want to get this now, it's, hey, It just hit its funding goals. Of course, up on their Kickstarter, they do have their how to play video and a rule book you can download for it. It's meant to, you know, have both an interesting system of building and battle at the same time and balance them together, when normally you have a lot of board games that only have one or the other. And seasons will have an effect, and of course there's the unique cards which bring Norse lore and world to life. So if you like Vikings and you like both a civilization building game to a little degree and of course a little bit of battle game, this might be something for you to check out. Alright, we're running down to the bottom here with Full Moon Jacket. So, this is all about the hellishness of war, but this also has werewolves in a jungle. A cooperative board game up on Kickstarter. It's a fast-paced co-op game, squad-based game with based miniatures game. Easy to pick up and play for new players. Provides tactical depth, and for seasoned war game veterans. You're a group of elite soldiers that locate, defend, and extract the Colonel. You use unique abilities, signature equipment to find bigger, more powerful weapons, set traps, cracks items, and you survive the night as endless werewolves spawn in the Vietnam General. So this is the Vietnam War you're kind of dealing with. Each game is unique. It's reversible module boards, so you can flip over the boards for some different things. Random supply drops, werewolf spawns that are different. And, of course, locations of Colonel changing every game. Hi, everyone in chat, of course. I haven't said hello to. As your team works together to adapt your plans, tactics, and etc. So, of course, High Diamond, High Stark, High Smoking Muffins, High Dust. Hope everybody's having a good day enjoying the show. So, they're close to their funding for Full Moon Jacket. They got 41 out of 46,000, 22 days to go, so they are about to hit it, where your elite group of soldiers basically, and there goes the Nightbot, on a special rescue mission with werewolves coming to murder you. It's an interesting take on a type of gameplay here. So it is 1 to 6 players, so you could play by your own. It's made for 45 to 120 minutes, so it is a longer game, and it is 14 plus. And you will have a number of... It's got a whole lot of miniatures in it, so that's one big thing. The double-sided boards, for building your own kind of terrain, a lot of different weapons, a bunch of different characters that each have their own role in the group, and event cards, and their own custom dice, tokens, etc., etc. So, it's an interesting game that's just about funded, where we're taking, of course, both a military strategy co-op game set in Vietnam, but also dealing with werewolves. Hey, that's not something you kind of... This is an interesting combination of a lot of things that if you like any one of these, you might enjoy this one. So, Full Moon Jacket is, of course, available now. At least they're a little spread apart, those Nightbot things. But we had enough talking to get it. Anyway, Carnival of Monsters. It's Richard Garfield's Carnival of Monsters, which, again, I'm really unsure if this is the Richard Garfield who helped create Magic the Gathering, and if it is, good for that, because that's the only Richard Garfield I know. Anyway, it's a story about a carnival. You need, like, you know, carnival music. In the Carnival Monster, you take the role of a leader of a carnival trying to attract people to your show. And the best way to do that is to go out and capture the most magnificent of creatures and put them on display. So step right up, be mystified by those bizarre and exotic creatures that you are basically bringing to your carnival. A carnival of monsters, a world of wonder that you're bringing to the world itself for you to show it out. So yes, it is Richard Garfield of Magic the Gathering fame. Yay. So his most recent design, this game challenges you to explore an exotic fantasy land and collect, well, monsters for your carnival. Earning the adoration of the crown, the fame that only a true carnival master can enjoy. Maybe you're going to be the next Barnum and Bailey, or I can't remember any carnival masters after that, because I can't right now. And they've teamed up some great artwork from some talented artists to great designs on the cards. So, the Kickstarter is, of course, up now. They are about a... Oh. Well, I'm sorry, folks. Bad news. I hadn't checked this. I hadn't checked this today. Turns out about 23 hours ago, the project was canceled for now. So most likely there's some problems in the design or what they're doing with it they have to redo. So I will update you when Carnival of Monsters returns to the Kickstarter field, if it does. Hopefully we can see, because this does seem like it was an interesting one, it returned in the future in some way. So yes, unfortunately this was about a quarter of the way funded, and it got canceled. And it had, you know... These things happen, and of course, when I, like, figure out what I'm going to be showing you, like, a day in advance, sometimes I miss when these things happen. And 23 hours ago was yesterday after I got all this stuff together. But let's move on to our final one. We'll maybe talk about that one in the future. One that I'm sure we, at Discussing Tabletop, will discuss in the future if it actually gets funded. For now, I will talk about it, though. Munchkin Starfinder. So, yeah, alright. Starfinder's all over Kickstarter recently. Some people have been doing some other products for Starfinder, and Steve Jackson Games decided to bring an expansion here. As a probably great way of maybe giving people an idea of what's going on out there. Though I will leave my opinions about Steve Jackson Games needing to do this to what we talked about in Discussing Tabletop this Saturday. This last Saturday. So if you want that, I will be uploading that later this afternoon to see our discussion on Steve Jackson Games and their Kickstarters. But for now, let's just talk about it. So, Starfinder, of course, is the new space-based version, basically, of Pathfinder. It is its own campaign setting with all of its different things, so it is its own unique things. And let me say, since Space Munchkin came out, we haven't seen much space when it comes to Munchkin, so I can support them doing a space-based adventure again. But it's, once again, Munchkin. It's about backstabbing, killing monsters, kind of role-playing the classic Munchkin on hostile planets, starships, facing alien creatures, gaining enough levels to hit level 10 and win the game while competing and screwing over your friends. So they got some great artists to work on this, which is great. It's going to be a 168 standalone card set with new races, classes, that of course you can combine with all the other Munchkin games, 1 to 2 hours play, ages 10 to up 3 to 6 games, and you can basket for a number of great bonuses. Now, it has been, of course, funded. It's reached 50,000 out of its 10,000. It's actually only 54 hours to go, so only a few more days. So it will be out, and it will be something that we'll discuss on Discussing Tabletop. Hurrah! I mean, if you want a lot of different things based on it, you can pledge and get things. You will have to get, of course... different fundings will give you the expansions that they will be putting out, which they are planning for, some special things, some special other stuff that's being released. They have unlocked many of their stretch goals, which is good. They're actually approaching their 55,000 stretch goal, which will include Munchkin Starfinder blank cards, 5 blank doors, 5 treasure doors. They added a bookmark, a poster, a Starfield level tracking game board with 4 Munchkin Starfinder cards, so pretty much the deluxe set, a kilometer, a couple new Starfinder cards, and they'll have cred sticks at 60,000. So they had some audience goals too. So for like number of backers, if on Board Game Geek fans, and Facebook shares that I guess haven't been hit yet. They do have optional stuff that you can add in, add-ons, of course, for stuff. So I mean, it's not a bad game. It's space travel. It's both Pathfinder and Space Munchkin combined, because they did both Pathfinder Munchkin and Space Munchkin in a new and unique way with their own things that will combine with all your old Munchkin games. So if you love Munchkin, you'll love this one. The question of whether or not they necessarily needed to be up on Kickstarter is something for our discussions, perhaps this Saturday once again. Or again, if you want to see us on Discussing Tabletop, we talked all about this for this one. So again, if you love Munchkin, you can get behind this one now. The game is just getting a copy of the game is $25. Getting a copy of the game and the first expansion will be $35, which is about the same price as you get for getting them normally. So you can just get them ahead of everyone else if you're interested in it. So Munchkin Starfinder, it is of course out now, and you can check it out. All right, that's it for the news for this week. All right, we went over a whole bunch of stuff. There was a bunch of Kickstarters that came out. Unfortunately, there was the one that shut down that we couldn't get anymore. It's a great Halloween night. I hope everybody has a great Halloween in general for this Halloween day. Again, I'm sorry, I would have had my actual cloak on and looked all like spooky and stuff, but I couldn't find my nice cloak. It's somewhere in the house and I don't know where it is. Blame me for losing track of stuff. Oh, we lost Dreamcast. Of course, I had the purple spider here to give us good luck. Here, Mr. Webby, for those of you that love Spinneret. Anyway, so I hope everybody had a good day. This will be up on YouTube later on today if you didn't catch all of it, or if you want to check out some of the links to some of these stories and more in the description. If you have any questions about any of these, go ahead and leave it in that description there. I'll answer it. Of course, you could always give suggestions on things based on these we can discuss on Discussing Tabletop. That will be on Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we will discuss a number of these news stories and Kickstarters and more. And of course, you can always email me also at discussingtabletop@yahoo.com. Contact Joe, contact Worm with questions about anything about these news stories or tabletop and more. And of course, as I want to kind of say now and add to my videos and stuff, if you want to share some stories on tabletop, on anything that you've done from a role-playing game, card game, board game, CCG, go ahead and leave them in the descriptions of any of my things. We'll discuss them with you. I love to hear some stories about people's tabletop. Hey, we heard a lot of them from guests on Discussing Tabletop. So, anyway, all the supports and stuff have been up in Nightbot, in the chat. I will also have all the supports in the description for the YouTube. All the ways that you can support me, following here on Twitch, following on YouTube, subscribing on Twitch since all the new emotes are out. If you like the emotes done by Ollie Rant there, thanks again, Ollie. I will continue to follow. Thank you for a little while there. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow for RPG Wednesday, later on the evening, where we're going to do some character creation, some world building, and a little bit of Fallout. So I hope everybody has a great rest of the day, great Halloween, gets lots of candy, maybe not too much candy, has all fun with all the kiddos, etc., etc. And I'll see you all here next week for more Gathering the Roll.